tonight's candidate forum. You're going to be introduced to candidates for Westlake's Board of Education. I'm Janice Patterson. I'm the chapter chair for the Westlake North Olmsted chapter of the League of Women Voters of Greater Cleveland. Our chapter, which now covers both cities, North Olmsted and Westlake, was organized in the 50s and became a joint chapter in mid-1950s. So we've been doing candidate forums for quite a long time. The League is a nonpartisan organization. It's open to men as well as women. We work at all levels of government to inform members and the public about candidates and about issues. We never endorse candidates. We sometimes take a position on ballot issues. We're really pleased that you decided to attend this forum tonight. Not only are you here able to hear directly from people who would like to serve on the school board, but we have a chance to think together about how important our public schools are to our city. I want you to know that we have a partner tonight with the Asian Pacific Islander American Public Affairs Association, the Chinese school in Westlake. And we have some students registering voters if you're not registered. We have their leader here helping us with timing, and we're delighted to have them share in a civic event. Let me introduce tonight's moderator, one of our chapter members, Joyce Schroth. Please welcome Joyce to the podium.
Thank you and good evening. Appreciate everyone being here tonight. I think we may have broken some records with the temperature. It seems like it's pretty warm for an October evening, and what we are hoping for as a league is that we're going to break those records in voting as well. So hope that we'll get as many people out there, and we're also hoping to have good weather, because we know if you're a candidate or a poll worker or someone that goes to the polls, it's always a good thing if it's a nice day. So let's try to keep that in mind for us as well. Tonight we have, in addition to the school board candidates, we also have two special presentations. The first one is going to be by Mayor Clough. Mayor Clough has served the citizens of Westlake as mayor for almost 34 years. He was a mere child when he started. Prior to that time, he served as a city councilman. He also served on the Westlake Board of Education. Mayor Clough is going to speak to us regarding the 3/8% income tax renewal levy. So please welcome the Honorable Dennis M. Clough, Mayor of the City of Westlake.
Thank you. It is indeed a pleasure to be here. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters. As was pointed out, they do this on a regular basis, and we're very appreciative to have this forum where we can talk about things affecting our particular city, and we're very pleased to be here tonight. I'm going to speak briefly. I was told I had 10 minutes, okay, on issue 71. Now, what is unique to issue 71 is it is a designation of the city's income tax that we received. We receive 1.5% income tax from all those individuals that work in the city of Westlake. But we've designated 3/8% for the specific purposes of our infrastructure improvements. This area right out here that you just went by when you came into the library, this Dover Center intersection, that is being paid for by the infrastructure tax. Now, the reason we designate that specifically is to make sure that the city of Westlake is able to keep up on its regular maintenance of our infrastructure. That includes roadways, it includes storm sewers, and it includes water lines. So we're very pleased that the voters of Westlake approved this a number of years ago. This is going to be the third time that we're asking for the renewal. Second time for the renewal, but the third time it's been in place. And the whole purpose of it was to make sure that if the city did not use the funds, as was indicated, that the voters would have the opportunity not to renew it. And that's why it was set up for 15 years. Okay, you've got it up here. So we're asking that it be renewed for another 15 years, so it's going to be the same amount, the same tax rate. And it is a couple of years early. The reason we're coming forward a little bit earlier, because anytime you do an infrastructure project, it takes 2 to 3 years of planning in order to get the design done, making sure you have the funds available to take care of the project. So we're asking that it be renewed this particular November. Anyone who works outside of the city of Westlake and are currently paying an income tax to another city, in Westlake, we give you 100% credit. So if you don't work in the city of Westlake, you don't pay this tax. About 68% of the individuals that file a tax return to pay our income tax, they do not work in the city of Westlake. So this is a way that we're actually receiving money for those people that work in the city of Westlake and use our infrastructure without putting the additional burden on our residents. So 32% of the residents who file and pay Westlake income tax will not see an increase in their tax. And those that are currently working won't see an increase. Like I said, it's just a renewal. Okay, the next slide. I forgot to include retention basins. I said water lines, storm sewers, roads, and highways. We also use this for master retention basin. Now, for those who are not aware what a master retention basin is, it's one that serves part of the entire community. If anyone drives down Crocker Road, on the east side of the street, about 4 years ago, we put in a huge retention basin in order to collect the water that generally flows from North Olmsted, because initially, when houses were being built and North Olmsted was developing, they did not put anything to hold the water back. And as a city that was downstream, it used to be that way, where you have to accept any water coming upstream. Now there's new laws around the country, but unfortunately North Olmsted has already been built up. So we did this in order to prevent many residents from experiencing flooding that we used to get as a result of continuous flow of water from North Olmsted. So, next slide. Over the years, this is how many dollars we've spent using this infrastructure fund. And this is what they were spent on. General road maintenance and expenses, $33 million. Street intersection and improvements, $37.4 million. Water line replacements and repairs, $30.1 million. Storm sewer improvements, $6.6 million. These improvements and infrastructure are not inexpensive. So it's one of those, and the cost continues to go up. But anyway, we have a list. How many people received our newsletter over the last weekend? Okay, we listed pretty much all of the infrastructure improvements that were contained over the last years, and those that we anticipate doing with the new tax, the renewed tax, if we can get the support of all the residents here in the city of Westlake in November. This highlights the millions of dollars that it would cost for all those improvements that are listed. You can see water line, $59 million, intersections, $32, general road maintenance, $11 million, and storm sewer, $18. That's it. Now, I will answer any questions. I hope it was simply explained. It is a small percentage of the income tax that we receive, but it's a very important portion of that income tax. And it is important that it is segregated. Here first.
So what's the percentage increase from the last 15 years to this dollar? 9%.
I think you have the numbers, what is it raised right now?
Right now, it collects about $8 million.
About $8 million a year. I think probably 30 years ago.
Last renewal, 15 years ago, was probably about 5.5.
And this one's 8.
8 million, correct.
So
Yes.
you
Sorry.
mentioned the master retention basins. So if you live in a development that has retention basins, the water's coming from North Olmsted, we're kind of on our own then, the homeowners association. The city doesn't give any.
So years ago, every development had to be responsible for the retention basin just to cover the houses within that particular development. But because a lot of development had occurred prior to us requiring that of individual neighborhoods, streets like Dunford, Hollywood, Dover Center, none of those houses had access to any type of retention basin. So this is what, we had a study done, and they said that the city of Westlake would help itself and those houses that have been built before the requirement if we were to put in master retention basins. And they sort of outlined specific areas within the city where we could get land. Now, we couldn't get every location simply because we did not have access to that land itself. Yes.
Is the tax, property tax, part of the property tax?
This is an income tax.
Income tax.
This is an income tax. And we don't tax retirement income either.
Okay.
So hypothetically, right, this is a question. So you have this project plan. What if that tax is not renewed? What's the plan to fund those projects?
Well, that's why we're doing it a couple years early. The only other alternative is either to eliminate the credit that we currently have or to put it back on the ballot again. It is one of those, the one thing that Westlake enjoys is one of the lowest tax rates in all of Cuyahoga County. I think there's less than 5 cities that have a city income tax less than 1.5%. Most cities right now have 2%, and some are as high as 2.5% on every dollar that someone earns within that city. And again, most cities do not give 100% credit if you work in another city. Those are 2 opportunities that we would have, but we don't really want to do that. We want to maintain the lowest income tax rate as we currently do, and we want to maintain that 100% credit that anyone who works outside the city but lives here enjoys. No more questions? Well, we will be sending out an additional newsletter later on this month to give a synopsis of this particular issue once again, but we also have it on the website. And if there's any questions that anyone has concerning this, they can contact my office. Thank you very much.
We are very pleased to have with us this evening a second person to speak to us on an issue other than Board of Education candidates. I'm very pleased that we have Dr. Pope from Tri-C West Shore, which is right here in the city of Westlake. She is going to speak to us for a few minutes on a 1.9 mil renewal and a 0.4 mil increase for their levy, also, as I mentioned, on the November 5th ballot. She is president of Tri-C West Shore and has been since 2013. She is a former Tri-C student. She was an instructor at Tri-C in 1988 and a tenured professor in 1997. So we know that Her allegiance is to Tri-C, and we're just delighted that she will be here. And she would like to take questions from the floor at the end of her presentation. Dr. Pope.
Thank you. Hi, thanks. Maybe I'll make this easier and stand a little in front of the podium because I'm vertically challenged. Before I begin, I do want to say, as someone who works and pays taxes in Westlake, I am very happy for the infrastructure that you provide. It makes navigating Westlake a lot easier for not only myself, but our students. So thank you, Mayor Clough, for your foresight on that. So yes, we are here. Tri-C is issue 3 on the November 5th ballot. Issue 3 is an operating levy that represents a 1.9 mil renewal and a 0.4 mil increase. So that all means a whole lot to people, but what it really means is the majority of the funds that keep Tri-C going. So I was really happy to hear that the League of Women Voters got started in this area in the 1950s, because in my mind I was thinking of a night like this 56 years ago when Tri-C was started. We had our 56th birthday last Monday. Last Monday our college was 56 years old. And while it was the Ohio State legislature that allowed Tri-C to exist as this region's community college, it was the voters of Cuyahoga County with their levy that actually brought Tri-C to life. And since that day, our college, the community's college, has been dependent on those levy funds for our operating expenses. So we currently have 2 operating levies that are 10 years in length. They come up for renewal every 5 years. This particular levy represents 25% of our operating expenses. Some people say that would be like losing a campus if we lost the operating levy. As the president of the campus here in Westlake, that makes me very nervous. I can tell you that we have approximately 3,000 students, credit and non-credit, who take advantage of our Westlake facility, our new and improved Westlake facility. Just like your beautiful elementary school down the road here, we opened our 2nd building, 90,000 square feet of pure educational power, just this last semester. So we're in about week 4 of our new building. That 25% operating levy will allow us to continue with our current agenda. Our students, and it's very important to us that our tuition remain affordable, our student tuition accounts for about 23% of what it costs to educate. The state of Ohio funding at Tri-C is about 26%, and the operating levies, as I mentioned earlier, is about 50%. So we are asking for this renewal. We considered very carefully the cost. There was some talk about saying, instead of going for a renewal plus an increase, why don't we just go with the replacement? For those of you who are tax wonks, you'll know that if we replace the levy at the same rate, we would actually get more money, but our voters would lose their rollback and their homestead exemption. And just like you saw with the Westlake issue, it was very important to us to maintain those exemptions for our county voters. So I would be happy to take any questions from the floor. Oh, just to let you know, on a $100,000 home value, our increase would represent $1.17 a month, which is about $14 a year per $100,000 home valuation. And even with our increase, we are still in the beautiful teal right down there, about 5% of your tax dollar. So we like to think of us as a great value proposition, and we hope you do too. Do you have any questions for me? Yes?
Is the property tax the only revenue, tax revenue
For Tri-C? So the county tax revenue, the levies, are about 50% of our income. The rest comes from the state share of instruction. And so the state share of instruction does also come from the state, which of course comes from tax dollars. So yes, good question. Yeah?
56 years ago, I went to the Caxton building when it started. The question is,
Sure.
does the money from Westlake, does that stay for the Westlake facility, or does that go for the whole Cutter Community College?
No, we are one college with many sites. So it goes to the overall county. So it's a countywide ballot initiative, and so it would be countywide tax collection and then countywide distribution or college-wide distribution among all the campuses. We have 4 campuses plus numerous sites like our Hospitality Management Center right in downtown Cleveland on Public Square, and our Transportation Innovation Station right across from the new Amazon in Euclid. So we've got places all over the county. Anything else? Yeah.
Not a question,
Oh.
just a statement.
Okay.
We're very blessed in the city of Westlake to have Tri-C's presence here. It's really made a difference for many of the students that want to go to Tri-C right here in the city of Westlake. And the reason they had to put a new addition on is because it's been so well received and accepted. More so than they thought initially, but we knew out here that it would be well.
Thank you. We are very grateful for
Great job.
our West Shore students. Thank you. Thank you.
And now we will enter into the Board of Education forum that's been established for this evening. I'm going to ask everyone to introduce themselves as they begin with their opening remarks, and just some FYI housekeeping for our candidates. We're going to make this real easy for you. You'll have 2 minutes for opening remarks, 2 minutes to respond to every question, and 2 minutes for your closing. Now, if you want to make that shorter, that's fine too. And where are our timers? Right here, great. So please pay attention to them when you have an opportunity to do that as you're speaking. And then I will be happy to do a question more than once, the same question more than once, but please ask me to repeat it if that be the case. All right? So we will begin with opening remarks by Liz Pirnat.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me? Thank you, League of Women Voters, for organizing the candidate forum, and thank you, Porter Public Library, for hosting tonight, and thank you to the community for coming out tonight. A week ago Saturday, I was next door at the ribbon cutting for our new elementary school, and I hope many of you here were able to attend. And with the community here tonight and the community that came out on Saturday, it really shows how much our community cares about Westlake schools, which is fantastic. My name is Liz Pirnat. I'm originally from the Chicago area, and my husband and I moved to Westlake in 1999, and we bought our home here in 2000. I'm a wine educator for Napa Valley Wine Academy, and I teach adults about wine to achieve various national and international certifications. Our daughter has attended Westlake schools since kindergarten, and she's currently enrolled in Dover Intermediate School. I've been involved with Westlake PTA units since she was born, starting with Westlake Early Childhood PTA. I've served as a PTA volunteer, a committee chair, on executive committee, and as Bassett PTA president. I'm currently involved with Westlake Council PTAs and Dover Intermediate School PTA. I've worked on numerous Westlake City School ballot initiatives with Citizens for Westlake Schools, ranging from working phone banks and canvassing all the way to a committee chair, and I've also served on strategic planning committees. Why do I want to be on Westlake School Board? I feel Westlake schools are great, but there are things we can improve on. While Westlake Schools has improved communications, there's more that can be done. Outreach to families in the district and the community at large needs to be stronger. In a time of information overload, Westlake Schools needs to find out what works and what does not. A new strategic plan with specific measurable goals needs to be developed, and we need to continue to be fiscally responsible with district funds. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bob Stoll. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the community and the library and everyone for turning out tonight. I'd like to introduce myself. This is the end of my first term on the Westlake School Board. Some of the things that we've accomplished in my last 4 years, we've done a few things. We've improved the communication between the city of Westlake and the Westlake schools. Initially, that was one of the reasons why I ran for the board. I saw some disconnects there. In addition to that, we've hired a new superintendent and a new treasurer. We've improved the morale throughout the schools. As you can see next door, our shining star, our brand new elementary school, that was done. It was completed on time and on budget. In addition to that, we are fiscally responsible. The city of Westlake and the city of Westlake schools have not had an operating levy since 2006. We funded the school next door through bonds, but we haven't had a voter operating levy, which I think is extremely important. In addition to that, our latest ODE report, which is the Ohio Department of Education, we had an A rating, and that's been improving over the years. My focus, just to let you know a little bit about my background, my wife has been on PTA for many, many years. Both of my daughters have gone through the Westlake schools, kindergarten through 12th grade. They've recently graduated. In addition to that, I myself I'm an educator. I'm a tenured professor at Ashland University, and I work in the School of Business and Economics. So we really focus not only on the positive things for the students, but also the positive things for the taxpayer, and we're fiscally responsible, making sure that everything gets done, but gets done in an on-time and fiscal orderly fashion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stoll. We'll now hear from Ann Barrett.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Ann Barrett. I'm a Westlake resident since 1978. I have approximately 20 years of public administration and teaching experience, K through 12, as well as graduate instructor experience. I'd like to continue the success that the school district has been so fortunate to have. A couple things on the platform I'd like to work on if I'm elected are consistent online lesson plans, and also I'd like to focus on more frequent testing for special ed so that we can test students out that could be tested out and up. And I'd also like to work a little bit more on transportation. I have public transit experience, and I would love to work on that for you. And that's about it for right now. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. We do have a fourth candidate. His name is Mr. Joe Kraft. He's unable to be with us this evening, but with the policy that we have with League of Women Voters, we always ask a candidate, if they're unable to be with us, to submit a letter. And so I do have a letter that I'll be reading from Mr. Joe Kraft. I should probably personally write him a letter because he made this an 18-point, so I'm going to read it. And when I say that my name is Joe Kraft, you know my name is really Joyce. My name is Joe Kraft. I thank the Westlake North Olmsted chapter of the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to be part of your forum. I have had the opportunity to address the chapter in past forums and regret the inability to join you this evening. I use the opportunity you have given me to share the following. I ask the citizens and voters of Westlake to support my re-election to the office of board member, Westlake City Schools. I have truly enjoyed serving my city and making a difference the last 4 years. 4 years ago, I asked for your trust and partnership to make the district better. Together, we hired new visionary leadership, starting with Superintendent Dr. Scott Gogan and Treasurer Mr. Todd Hopkins. We empowered staff to create and improve academics and programming. We completed our facilities project with the new Westlake Elementary School next door, a design saving over $1.2 million annually in operating budget. We are fiscally responsible. We passed a significant permanent improvement measure to take care of the district capital. We improved the stature and reputation of Westlake City Schools. We formed growing relationships with city officials. These are just a few of the things we accomplished together. I thank you for your partnership. We have more to accomplish. First, let's continue our partnership. Your ideas positively impact the district. We should and will continue our dialogue. Next, I want to work with all citizens on solutions for the district's unused real estate. Possibilities include park space and green space, a permanent home for the Board of Education. In the case of Dover Elementary, space to alleviate traffic congestion. Continuing, let's create new career paths for our future graduates. Courses and programs will continue to build knowledge and skills in careers such as those in blockchain, Mars exploration, healthcare discoveries, new sustainable businesses, and all the trades that support these industries. Finally, as our world moves faster and faster, let's make certain to keep our students healthy in mind, body, and spirit as we prepare them for a bright future. Let's continue to address wellness by continuing the district's programs, including those involving mental wellness and drug abuse education. My name is Jill Kraft. I ask for your vote on or before November 5th. Thank you. Okay, we are now ready to entertain questions for our candidates. And the first question is, in the next 4 years, your 4 years, should you be elected, what is your vision for Westlake City Schools? And we will start with Liz Pirnat.
Thank you. My vision for Westlake Schools in the next 4 years is to have developed a new strategic plan with very specific measurable goals that not only look at academic performance of our students, but look at the whole student. Look at the social emotional components of it. And also to make sure maintaining fiscal responsibility and what's going to be happening with our former elementary schools and moving forward so we best effectively use this land that's owned by the schools. And the reality of it is, in 4 years, most likely we are going to have to be back on the ballot. The projected 5-year forecast is going negative in 2023. As of right now, we do not have plans as to when we're going back to the ballot, but that is going to be an issue that we're going to have to address.
Thank you. The next candidate to speak is Mr. Stoll.
My vision for the next 4 years is also to continue the strategic plan. We just finished our last 5 years of strategic planning, which ends in 2020. We're going to be creating the next 5 years of strategic planning. Some of the things that we'll be looking at doing is continuing to improve the education levels. We were a final overall grade of A, but we need to increase that in all areas. There's always room for continuous improvement. We want to continue to be fiscally responsible. We're going to be doing that. In addition to that, what we see is looking at the general state of the schools. Unfortunately, one of the things we have to consider today is security. We've seen lots of unfortunate accidents and acts of shootings. This is something we have to consider. That was well thought out when we looked at the new facility next door. Westlake Schools are one of the few schools in the state of Ohio that has a school resource officer at each and every school. Okay, and that is something that I hope makes everybody in this room feel comfortable. In addition to that, the location next door wasn't randomly chosen. What we look at, and one of the important things in schools, is response time. If you look at the distance from all the schools, whether it's the high school, Lee Bernison, or the new school next door from the police station, we have a rapid response time. And this has been found to find the lowest fatality rate should an accident happen. But we're implementing new security, and we continue to move forward with education and fiscal responsiveness. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stoll. Ms. Barrett, same question.
In the next 4 years, I'd like the vision in part to be more competitive through technology, levies, and aggressive grant applications. For example, demo grants, be catalysts in some of the new types of education through technology. And that's in a general sense. I know I mentioned some other things at the beginning of the meeting, but that's, I think, what I'd like to see happen in more of a short-range plan over 4 years.
Thank you. We are going to go back and forth with this microphone. Apologize, we just have a handheld, and I have a handheld. So that's what it's all about tonight. Okay, this may seem almost redundant, but it was actually the first question on the index cards. And it goes first to Mr. Stoll. Gun violence is an ever-present threat in schools today. What can Board of Education members do to ensure all students are safe?
Okay. Just to reiterate, I did cover that, but if you look, like I said, we are proactive. We've got school resource officers in all of our schools, in fact, more than one in some of them. In addition, we're doing lots of education, and we've recently hired some psychologists that help us understand what's going on with the students, and any sign of trouble, we find that as early as possible. In addition to that, the closeness and proximity near the police station really helps response time, and in many cases it can be certainly less than 2 minutes, and we would hope it would even be under a minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stoll. That question now goes to Ann Barrett.
Thank you. I think continuous training and continuous drills of that nature are really your best defense, and continuous education as professionals, continuing to go to those meetings and those seminars and learning what the best way is to protect the children.
Thank you. Ms. Pirnat, same question.
As somebody who's experienced an active shooter drill in a school situation, I happened to be there one day when I was volunteering in the classroom. Our students already get enough drills. They don't need more training on that. It's emotional for the student, it's emotional for the teachers and staff in the building, and it's emotional for the parents when they come home. Our partnership with Westlake Police is fantastic. The fact that we have SROs, school resource officers in the buildings, is tremendous. There's a lot of security in the buildings that is unseen and not publicly communicated, and there's a specific reason for that. We don't want people to have a list of what it takes to get into the buildings. There is that social emotional piece that is now being even developed even more this year with the, I believe it's Belfair partnership that we have, that are coming in and having psychologists come and talk to the students and working with them. So there is a lot going on. Unfortunately, there's realities of society today that we do have to continue doing these active shooter ALICE drills. Do I think we need more drills for our students? No, I do not think they need more drills.
Thank you. Reading questions right away. Okay, so the next question, and we'll begin with Ms. Barrett. Have you been active in attending meetings of the Westlake Board of Education? In the past year, approximately how many meetings have you attended?
Because of my work schedule, and it does have some occasional conflicts, but I would be committed to going to every single meeting if I am elected.
Thank you. Ms. Pirnat.
I have been the advocacy chair for Westlake Council PTAs in the past 5 years, and I have been at almost every meeting in that time period. And over the last year, I've been at all board sessions, work sessions, special sessions, outside of a random one or two that I might have missed. But I've been at pretty much all of the meetings.
Mr. Stoll.
Obviously, being on the board, I attend almost all meetings. Occasionally, I do have a work commitment that may lead me out of town, but even then, I've been known to Skype in, even though it's not, I cannot legally vote at that point, but I do call in and make sure that I'm available for all situations. Thank you.
Thank you. And I was looking at two cards that have somewhat similar questioning, and so I'm going to combine these, and if there is a difficulty in my questioning, please let me know and I'll be happy to repeat. Well, be happy to make it up again. Yes. Okay. Westlake Chinese School is the second largest Chinese school of Cuyahoga County. What is your attitude to promote multicultural like Chinese? Some neighboring cities, for example, Rocky River, Avon, have Chinese language in high school. And the second part of that is, do you support offering Chinese as a foreign language in high school? And that question will go to Liz Pirnat.
I am a huge supporter of multiculturalism and diversity, and this is one of the areas that I really would like to spend more time to explore in how we can promote the diversity within Westlake schools. My daughter has previously been in the German language school up until this past year in North Olmsted. I'm sorry, it's Olmsted Township, I believe. In regards to specifics as to whether Chinese should be taught in the high school, that is, in all truthfulness, that's a situation of staffing requirements and number of people who are going to be in there. I mean, I can speak from my own personal experience of German is no longer being taught at the high school because fundamentally they didn't have enough students. And there is a reality of you need to have enough students enrolled to maintain keeping a class. So that's something that can be explored. I would not, say that this definitively going to happen or not going to happen. It's something to look into, though.
Thank you. Mr. Stoll.
I believe we should have diversity in all our schools. The other thing that I think we should do is, and we're doing this next door, is language needs to start early. A lot of times most students take it in high school. They learn much more quickly and better when they start in the kindergarten, K through 4 areas. So I believe that languages should be taught as soon as possible. I think that there's a lot of research. If you look at the academic research out there, foreign languages really develop the brain in a younger person, and we see that. As far as the types of languages, where my viewpoint is, if you look into the future in hundreds of years, there's only going to be about 5 dominant languages in the world. Many of them, some of the smaller ones, are going away, but certainly Chinese, English, Spanish, Arabic, and Russian would be the main languages. And we're starting to see a drift from some of the traditional languages like German and French, where they're spoken in much smaller parts of the world. So we need to continue in that area. We also, the city of Westlake does have a partnership with the Asian Pacific Islander group. We actually have a dinner, which I attended last year at the Westlake High School. So we continue to partner with that group, and we look forward to doing more with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stoll. Ms. Barrett.
Multicultural is all-inclusive and makes our children better, and it makes them more competitive, especially in the workforce when they do enter the workforce. So I think it's fantastic. I think if you look at the other districts that are very competitive districts, you will see they're already doing Chinese and they've been doing it. So that would be a great thing if we could get that on board.
Thank you. This question will first be directed to Mr. Stoll. Residents complain that the teachers at Westlake City School District earn the top salaries across Ohio education districts, but provide second-tier teaching on terms of the scores. What would you do to address this if elected?
Okay. Well, we've been addressing it for several years. One of the things that, if you look at the number of raises that we've given, Westlake teachers actually gave back over the last several years and then had no increase for several years. So we've been trying to bring those salaries in alignment. If you remember a couple years ago, because we were so fiscally responsible as the administrators and the Board of Ed, we actually came close to getting a strike with the teachers. Now that was resolved, and we continue to monitor those things. We understand, teachers' salaries and where they are respectively. But if you compare us not to the state, but the districts that we compete with, we're very competitive in that area. We also believe that our teachers are first rate and second to none in the city of Westlake, and many of them give lots of extra time. They're not just there from 8 to 2:30. They're doing things after hours. They're emailing on the weekends, and we continue to monitor that situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stoll. Ms. Barrett.
As far as raises are concerned, I think we should give them when we can. And we should do other things for the teachers as well when we can. There are so many other ways we can thank them besides just the monetary aspect. So I was try to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pirnat.
When the state report card came out and we got an overall A, it's something that we should celebrate. And when we're talking about Westlake teachers giving a second-rate teaching and our scores are low and there's a perception out there about that, I mean we got an overall A. that's really good. It shows our students are performing and they are doing well. Our teachers are paid competitively compared to those in the surrounding areas in Cuyahoga County, and especially when you look at the years of experience that our teachers have. We have an average of 19 years of experience in Westlake, and our teachers are making an average of $79,500. In comparison to Rocky River, you know, their average is 18 years and they're being paid a little over $80,000. I mean, they're competitive. They're not being paid considerably more or considerably less. They're competitive salaries for in the area, and you know, making sure people understand in the community that we are offering a great education and showcasing our highlights of what the students do. And it's not just test scores, but showcasing and celebrating what everyone's achieving here is really what we need to get through.
Thank you. Person to answer the next question first will be Ms. Barrett. How should the empty school buildings be used?
I think the first thing we would do is create a focus group with experts that not only work in land use and construction and engineering and accounting and education, and then we would take it from there to decide which buildings would have what done, which buildings we'd want to keep. That's a long process, and I don't want to speculate on what we would do on them yet. We'd have to evaluate each particular building. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, have you already figured this out, where it goes?
Yes.
Should I just say the question, you guys okay, we're going with it? Okay, we're ready.
Okay, so for the empty schools, Dover Elementary is an easy one, just from the standpoint of that will help fix all the traffic problems as a parent who drops off at Dover Intermediate School and picks up. My daughter plays cello and she can't take the bus with the cello, and so I'm driving her there at least once a week and picking her up. It will help with the traffic flow over there with Dover Intermediate School and Lee Bernison. If you've ever driven through that corridor during pickup or drop off, you've experienced some of that. The other three, Hilliard, Holly Lane, and Bassett, I mean, ultimately this should be part of the strategic planning process. And whether they turn into fields in its partnership with the city, whether one of the building turns into a future Board of Education site, you know, this is where it does need to be looked at. You know, ultimately, I don't think they should necessarily be sold, because for how much money it will bring in for a one-time hit to the bottom line of the school district, it's not very much money. And if we do ever need to build something, buying that property back is going to be much more expensive. So it is something that should be thought through and carefully examined as part of the strategic planning process.
Thank you, Ms. Pirnat.
Again, it would be part of the strategic planning process, but the most important thing is to look at all of the constituents. We need to look at the neighbors who live around those schools. We need to look at the taxpayer base. We need to look at what's best for the community. And we would take input from everybody, not just the school parts and the Board of Education, but we would look to all of those constituents to help us make those decisions. And I'm sure moving forward, we would probably survey both the neighbors who live there and the voters in general to make sure that when we made those decisions, there was consensus among everybody. It's a little bit too early to see exactly what we're doing. We have a lot of ideas, and you've heard some of those. Should we sell them? Should we make them fields? But I think at this point, you know, the focus has been the last year certainly was to get the building up next door, to get it up and running before the school year started, which we did. And the nice thing about that building, the consolidation, saves well over $1 million because of the combining of schools. We don't need, you know, 4 kitchen staffs, right? We've got 1 kitchen now, and we've done that across the board. We did that with very little reduction in force. Most of it was done through attrition over the last several years because we've been planning for this for a long time. So, you know, that's a decision that will be made in the next couple years, but we're looking at all options. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the things that is important to us as League of Women Voters and for you as an audience is to make sure that the candidates each receive the same question. So I know that there are those of you who might like to ask one specific candidate a question, and what we're going to ask is that you do that after the forum. The candidates will be available here at the front table. But I do have a question, so we're just going to kind of run with this one just a little differently. Am I right, Mr. Stoll, you are currently a board member, is that right? And our ladies are running for school board. So the question then will be for the new candidates, how are you familiarizing yourself with the district's operations, meeting with staff, volunteering, attending school board meetings? And for Mr. Stoll, it will be, how did you familiarize yourself with the district's operations? When did you meet with staff? Are you volunteering? And I'm assuming that you're attending school board meetings. Okay, yes. All right, very good. So we're going to start with Ms. Pirnat.
Okay. So being a parent in Westlake City Schools is incredibly wonderful from the standpoint of I get to know what's it like being in the school district. Being a volunteer, I'm in the classrooms. I have seen how the amazing work that our teachers do and how our classes work. As a PTA president, I mean, I was in meeting with principals on a regular basis, working on strategic planning committees, working with high level with the administration and working on levy committees. This is where I've been able to get to know so many of the administration and how the district works and the finances of it, especially when you go door to door and you go through, I'm trying to remember if it was 2 or 3 rounds when we lost in explaining the budget and talking to people individually door to door and explaining why we needed to pass various operating levies. I've been able to learn those things. And this is where, whether it's PTA volunteering, being on advocacy, and attending Board of Ed meetings and seeing how the Board of Education works. And as advocacy chair, I mean, I can tell you numerous times I've had to call the current Board of Ed members and, advocate based off of things that came out of PTA meetings, discussions from parents, and this is where I would contact them and say, just so you know, this is one of the issues that are coming up repeatedly, or this is, I know you're thinking about a new policy. For example, drug testing was one in particular. There was letting them know sort of the overall feeling that was coming out of the PTA units when I was present at those meetings. So that is how I've been able to get familiar with the Board of Education and how I'm more familiar with how the board works.
Thank you. Mr. Stoll?
I attended Board of Education meetings many years before I actually ran for the board. I was always interested in the process. I put forth as a citizen a permanent improvement idea that was actually enacted on several years after the fact. But I brought that up as a private citizen because what I saw after 3 failed levies, that the citizens of Westlake were tax averse, and rightfully so if the money's not being spent correctly. So with both my business background, having been in business for 30 years, and my recent focus as an educator and a professor in the business school, I bring both of those skills to the Board of Ed. So when I look at accounting numbers, I know exactly what they mean, and I also understand the perspective of a great education from a student's perspective. So I'm involved with all aspects of the city schools. I attend PTA meetings. I go into various schools from time to time, and certainly I attend all of the board meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett.
I have attended Westlake school board meetings in the past, of course, and I've been in the classroom within the last year in the Westlake schools, so I've been somewhat eyes and ears as well to help out and make the programs larger, better, etc. I also have a lot of neighbors and friends that work in the district. I have a lot of neighbors that have children in the district, so I do become apprised of what's going on in that respect as well. So. In an overall sense, I do have quite a bit of recent experience and recent information, not just from reading in professional journals, etc. You're welcome.
The next question, and we'll start with Mr. Stoll. Are you familiar with the high school curriculum? More than just a yes answer.
I'm actually very familiar. Both of my daughters, my oldest daughter graduated in 2014. and my youngest daughter graduated in 2017. So I've spent a lot of time understanding the education, understanding the curriculum. I also taught I was a guest speaker in the business curriculum that they offer. So I came in for several days and taught the students about some things that they may not have heard of, such as supply chain management and blockchain. So I spent time, actually teaching, not only understanding the curriculum and knowing what's important from the real world perspective, not only the academic perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Barrett?
The high school curriculum has achieved excellence, obviously, and I would like us to continue to expand that curriculum as much as possible, is the obvious. And I'm very proud of the curriculum they have. I think they're doing a great job.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Pirnat?
Well, my daughter's only in 6th grade. I'm not as intimately familiar as Bob is. With the high school curriculum, I do have a number of friends who've got high school students, but at the same time, I'm incredibly proud of the offerings and the diversity of offerings that Westlake High School offers, whether we're talking about honors classes, AP classes, college credit plus classes, not just college credit plus, but college credit plus offered at Westlake High School, the International Baccalaureate Diploma options. And then for technical students, there's the Lakewood Technical Program that's been very successful, Westlake has had for years, in the partnership that we have, and even rolling out more the TEALS program, which is now teaching Python in the classroom, and the big reason why I'm familiar with that is my husband's a Python developer, so very familiar with those things. So, but the diversity of what the classes are, not just core curriculum, and then we have orchestra and choir and band and so many diverse music offerings and sports that I'm trying to remember. Bowling is now a varsity sport, if I remember correctly. I think it's not just football and basketball and baseball. We've got lacrosse now for boys and girls. So we've got a great offering for well-rounded students.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Next question will first go, Ms. Pirnat, to Ms. Barrett. The question has two parts to it. What is the 5-year forecast? The district used to follow a continuous improvement plan to assure goals were set and met. What is your plan?
I would like to continue the forecast that they have in place and continue to improve and increase what they have already, because they are the experts, and I would just be adding my information in hopes of improving that program.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett.
It's a two-part. Is that it?
That's it. Ms. Pirnat.
Thankfully, because of the consolidation of the 4 elementary schools and our 1.2 to 1, I believe it's now up to $1.5 million savings with the consolidation. Originally back in October of 2018, the 5-year forecast had Westlake schools going negative in 2022. But in the updated 5-year forecast in from May of 2019, it's now, the deficit's now pushed out to 2023, where we're going negative in $2.9 million. So there is some concern 5 years out. We need to make sure that we don't go negative, and we are able to maintain the excellence in the staffing and without having to do additional cuts. In the continuous improvement process, it's more moved into the strategic plan, and there has been updates to it, and it is time for the community to come back together and create a new strategic plan and build out a new continuous improvement process from there.
Thank you. Mr. Stoll?
The 5-year forecast does go negative out in the 5th year, but we've seen that forecast for the last several years, and what we've been able to do through fiscal management is to really push that out, and we continue to push that out. And with the new school, there has been savings. We don't know the exact number, but it's somewhere between $1.2 and $1.5 million a year that was able to push that fiscal negative response out as long as possible. So we're continuing to monitor the financial situation, but as I mentioned earlier, we have not had an operating levy since 2006. If you look around the county or the state, that's unprecedented. You know, we're going on 13 years, and if we go out another 4 years, that's 17 years without an increase in any tax base. And if you look at that, that's really good responsibility from the taxpayers. I look at our role on the board as twofold. One is we have to be promoting the students, because that's what we're all about. Our name is the Board of Education. But secondary, we're responsible to the taxpayers from a fiduciary responsibility. Okay? And we've done that, and that continuous improvement has occurred all along. We've done that as we go forward year and year. We've continually improved everything from hiring, staffing, new superintendent, new treasurer, and we continue to improve looking at the overall scores that we get from the Ohio Department of Education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stoll. I'm going to give them just a little break. If you notice how I go back and forth and they're moving this, microphone around and around, and what happens is we don't want the same person to have to always speak first, right, or the last person to always speak last, because they could be making all kinds of notes, and the middle person, I don't know. So let me just mention to you what the Board of Education does, for those of you who might not have as much familiarity with that. They adopt and evaluate school system policies. They hire and evaluate the superintendent of schools. They adopt and oversee the budget. They meet regularly once a month, and oftentimes will have a work session during that same month. And under the Ohio statute, they are paid no more than $5,000 a year. So that kind of follows with this next question. And we will begin by asking Ms. Pirnat to answer this first. What are the characteristics of a superintendent you most admire?
Wow. Well, that's a great question. During my involvement with Westlake Schools, I've had the opportunity to work with 3 different superintendents in 3 very, very different styles, between Dan Keenan and Mr. Palmer and now Dr. Goggin. Leadership is something that's definitely somebody who can inspire not just staff but students, and somebody who's going to want our school district to be the best that it can. And when I'm saying the best that it can, I'm not talking just purely in academic scores. There's so many, you want the best of the whole student. Somebody who is able to bring consensus. It's not just their way or the highway. It's, the reality is you're going to be dealing with lots of different divergent personalities and very passionate people with a lot of variety of personalities. You want somebody who's able to be out in the community. I will tell you, it's incredibly important when they're able to show up to, whether it's a Friday night football game or it's a Sunday morning pancake breakfast. You want somebody who's very visible in the community. You want somebody who does have a background in education. Somebody who understands what it's like working in the classroom. These are all very important skills in understanding the policies that are coming down, not just from federal government, because the reality is so much managing the policies that especially come from the state legislature and the Ohio Department of Education is something that's also important.
Thank you, Mr. Stoll.
When we hired our new superintendent, we looked at several things, but some of the key things were leadership, the ability to have a vision, and in addition to that, to really bring people together. After our close to a near strike, we had a lot of problems within the school systems. Morale was low, and we really needed someone who could come in and heal. So I think what you have to do, and I teach courses in leadership, what you have to do, it depends on the situation. Every time you go out and hire somebody, there's a different type of situation, and you're hiring that candidate. We looked at a lot of candidates. Many of them were very, very good. They just weren't the right candidate at that time. So I think Dr. Goggin here that we hired, I think he is the candidate. He's been a great hire, along with our treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Barrett.
I'm just going to put it in 5 words. I would love to see, we always love to see someone who's experienced and can bring other new ideas to
a new school board or a new organization. So experienced, dedicated, positive, consistent, and caring for our students.
Thank you. This next question will first go to Mr. Stoll. Do you feel it is important for the board to be supportive of community nonprofit organizations? If so, do you believe it is important to allow the nonprofits access to school facilities?
We believe that access to all of the facilities is important for everyone. We would like to see the school district at the center of the community. We hold pancake breakfasts at the high school. We hold community events. We have a dinner with the senior citizens. So it's really critical that, you know, because there's a lot of people that don't have children in the district, but they still pay taxes, they pay school taxes, and they need to be a part of the school and feel part of the community. So it's very important, whether it's nonprofit or any other group, we want to encourage people to come and use the facilities when they're available. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Ms. Barrett.
Yeah, I think we definitely obviously want to continue to support any nonprofits that we can. Keeping in mind we have to have our same house rules and possibly additional rules in place to keep the safety in place.
Thank you. Ms. Pirnat?
The schools are a foundation part of the community itself, and the schools have been used by a lot of nonprofits throughout the community, and our school board members have been involved with various nonprofits, not only in Westlake community, but also in the greater Cleveland area. I mean, I can think of various churches. The Chinese language school has been hosted in Westlake schools. You know, scout meetings. There have been a number of different community scout meetings held throughout the schools. And there's just been a number, Kiwanis Club, Pancake Breakfast. So those partnerships are important to making sure that the schools are part of the community.
Thank you. Next question. First we'll go to Ms. Barrett. Why do I keep saying these things? You just keep passing on. It's good for the video, I think, because there will be people. This is going to be on the League of Women Voters Facebook site, YouTube face site, in about a week. So one of the reasons that I keep repeating your name is so that if somebody clicks on there, they're going to remember your name, who said it, and hopefully for the right reason they'll vote for you. Okay, so this one obviously goes to the end of our table, Ms. Barrett. How can Westlake School District support diversity within this community?
I think by continuing to do what they're doing. I think they're doing a great job with it. They're trying to be all-inclusive, and that's what we need to do.
Okay, thank you.
I grew up on the south side of Chicago in the 1980s and early 90s, and my kindergarten through 12th education, I grew up with a diverse group of cultures and backgrounds, which really helped shape my appreciation for different cultures. I truly believe education is at its best when we embrace diversity in our community, not just cultural diversity, but diversity of ideas, circumstances, and experiences, and we can really all learn from each other. We need to do better. We really do. Parents, staff, students, those who go to the public schools, and those that don't go to the public schools, we really need to do better. And this is one of the things that is at the heart of one of the reasons why I am running for school board. We have to find a way to embrace the diversity that Westlake has turned into and is going to be and is going to continue to be. And we need to find a way to do better.
Thank you. Mr. Stoll.
Diversity is very good. We look at it in the business world. We make better decisions, we make better CEOs, we make better businesses in general. At the school level, you may find this hard to believe, but in the Westlake schools, some of our students, we have over 35 different languages, native languages that are spoken in home. My daughter, when she was in kindergarten, her co-student spoke no English and only knew Korean at the time. So we have a lot of diversity in the schools, certainly not as much as some other districts, but there's a significant amount of diversity. The other thing we can do to encourage diversity is get students to travel. when you travel, whether that's abroad or to a different country, different area, you learn lots about diversity. And it's really important from a growing point of view, and you get other ideas, different ideas that you may not have thought of, and just a different viewpoint that you can look forward from. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next question. What level of skills should high school students have upon graduation? Oh, no, let's ask me now.
I think it's my turn. I think it's you.
You know, it's getting late. And trust me, I'm sure these candidates feel as though they're sitting in heated seats. Because if you've ever been part of a forum like this, debate school, you know, in high school or whatever it might have been, it's real easy to just get tired.
Can you clarify the question? Because my understanding is what level of schools should high schools?
What level of skills?
Skills, okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Were we talking about languages?
Yes. What level of skills should high school students have at graduation? Well, the reality is the skills really depend on what the plan is for the student, and it's a family choice as to what they do after high school graduation. We are going to need doctors and nurses and chefs and restaurant servers and plumbers and electricians and carpenters and every set of diverse skill set. You know, computer software engineers. My husband would get mad at me if I didn't mention that. We're going to need all of that. I think one of the most important skills that students walk out with is understanding they need to be flexible in what their career path is going to be. As somebody who, I teach wine. When I graduated high school, I never thought I'd be teaching wine. I mean, that's not something when you're walking across the stage getting your diploma, I'm going to go teach wine. Now, I will tell you, if you live in California, it's a little different, but it's just the reality of it. And they need to understand that there's going to have to be flexibility in their career paths and what they choose to do. Maybe they go to college, that's awesome and fantastic, and that's for them. Maybe they go to community college and Tri-C, where's Dr. Pope? But maybe they go to community college, maybe they go to a trade school, maybe they take a couple years off and work, if that's what they want to do. I think understanding there is flexibility, they need to work as team members, they need to be compassionate with other people in understanding everyone's circumstances are different, and understanding that there's a place in society for everyone. I think that is by far the most important skills.
Thank you.
Okay, what I see is the need for continuous improvement in the STEM area. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. What we see, and you're noticing it, as the world moves more and more towards artificial intelligence, AI as it's known, a lot of the low-skilled, non-skilled jobs are going to disappear. Things from cashiers to stocking of a warehouse, etc. All those jobs will be eliminated. And what will replace those? Technology jobs. Someone has to program those robots, program those machines. So we see higher and higher levels of skills. The jobs are there now, and if you look at where the job shortages are, they all tend to be in the technology, computer science, engineering, nursing, doctors. So all of those things in the sciences and technologies, we need to continue to move forward, but we certainly need to make sure that we offer higher and higher level skills as students will need those as we move forward into the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett.
I think that the students should be at the level appropriate for that individual's abilities and interests. And we need to do the best we can to make them the best person that they can be.
Thank you. Okay, candidates, we're ready for closing remarks. We're so excited. Okay, so once again, you have 2 minutes for your closing remarks. And thank you for holding the microphone, Mr. Stoll, because yes, you're first.
Well, first of all, once again, good evening, and thank you for allowing me to come forward and speak to all of you. I'm very interested in education. It's my passion. I really am asking here for your vote. I would encourage all of you to go out on November 5th, that Tuesday. We typically find this pattern, it tends to be a low voter turnout. So I'm encouraging you to ask all of your friends, your neighbors to come out and vote. One of the things I'd like you to consider is, we've heard a lot of good things about the Westlake City Schools. That's not by accident, that's by leadership. We want to continue to move forward in all of those areas. We've got some things to do. We've got to look at and address what we're doing with the existing schools. Safety and security is on everybody's mind, and we continue to look forward to that. We've got new technologies in the building next door that will, requires an ID that's scanned and does a background check on people. Those things we will continue to move forward. We've also got some financial issues that are coming in the next 4 or 5 years. We want to head those off as long as possible. But if we do need to raise money, we will be prudent about it. At some point, we may go to the ballot. I can't tell you when and if, but at some point in the future, we may. When we do that, we will ask for the most minimal amount of money if we do have to go to the ballot. And I just want to make sure that we continue the progress that's been going on and make Westlake schools not only the best in Cuyahoga County, but the best in the state of Ohio. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stoll. And yes, you're right, it goes to the
It goes to the flag.
I just want to thank all of you guys for coming out this evening, and I want to let you know that if you do choose me for this position, I will, if I have the time and I have the experience as well as the education, to make Westlake even better. So thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you. And Ms. Pirnat.
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters and everyone in the community for coming out tonight. Being an informed voter is very important. Through my involvement in the schools, from volunteering in the classrooms, PTA, ballot initiatives, strategic planning committees, and so much more, I know the challenges that are facing Westlake schools and the opportunities that exist to make Westlake schools even better. As a member of Westlake School Board, I would represent all of the Westlake community. Through my time as Westlake Council PTA's advocacy chair, I have learned to advocate for all of our students. I've been vocal in praise, and I've been vocal when there's been concern. Dr. Gowding can attest to that one. I've seen Board of Education meetings that are good, and I've seen those tough meetings. My absolute favorite part is seeing the amazing work the staff does and the outstanding work that our Westlake students do. My name is Liz Pirnat, and I encourage you to vote for me on November 5th or earlier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a reminder to everyone in our audience, there are 4 candidates up for election. 3 will be elected on November 5th. We have 3 candidates here this evening who we appreciate their willingness to want to serve. They serve not just the entire community, they serve the students, the staff, all of the residents that reside in the city of Westlake, and we appreciate that, as well as me, Joe Kraft, for being here this evening. So if you could join me in giving a round of applause for these wonderful candidates. And now, just for one moment, I'm welcoming Janice back to the podium.
This is an unusual piece of a candidate's night, but we have a door prize. Dr. Pope left behind a little bit of Tri-C swag, and it seems to me like it ought to go to somebody who has come to attend this evening's event. So if you're willing, if you would be interested, you have to be a Tri-C graduate. So do we have any in the room? We do have. Are you the? We have 2. Okay. Which one's birthday is the closest to today? All right. Good answer. Here you are. So, come and visit with the candidates. Thank you very much for coming. Request an absentee ballot as soon as you can and vote it, and turn out at the polls if that's your choice. Thank you for coming.